How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast, episode number 99. We are so close to episode 100, but yet nothing will change. We will still be the same every single week. The only thing that has changed is that everyone's decided not to turn up today. So tonight it is me and Wes. Wes, how are you doing?
Yeah, Wagwan Generals in the wise words of Mr. John Stones. I think he's just saved football with his last minute equaliser for City. But no, I am good. I'm looking forward to another show, and I am pleased to be on. And we have more positive things to talk about as opposed to last week. So yeah, it should be all good.
Exactly, mate. If in doubt, always rely that Wes will be here, apart from playing on a Sunday at home.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. Right. We might as well just crack straight on. But first of all, we have to do a bit of housekeeping. So, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you are clicking the like button on the video as well. The reaction we've had to some of the last streams have been really, really good. So thank you all very, very much for that. And if you're listening on any podcast platform, make sure you're following and giving us a good 5-star review. That would be lovely. Thanks. Right, so let's get cracking. Jay was in nice and early. He said, what a win that was. Come on, you Spurs. By the way, everyone, if it seems like it's a bit of a disaster today, there is a reason, because in the background, we have decided to change the systems that we use. So I have no idea what buttons I'm pressing. And I just hope I'm pressing the right one. And where's his mum in the house saying evening all?
Evening.
Big Johnny showed his face after Arsenal threw it away in the last minute. Said hello, Jay and the panel.
Who's Jay? I don't know who Jay is. Oh, fair enough. I'll let him off.
His favourite. Oh, Matty Kushner is in the house as well. Big up, guys. Big up to you, Matty, as well. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. As we did last week, but people decided to bottle it, we are doing it again. So want to have your say on tonight's show, click the link and be part of the panel. You'll get 5 minutes. You must have your camera on, and you can have your say about Spurs, nothing else. So do that. And if you want to, you can be on the show. But unlikely that people will. But, have a go if you think you're hard enough, I suppose. Right, let's crack on and talk about commentary midweek in the Carabao Cup. We were seconds away from another Ange Postecoglou meltdown from the fan base. And to be fair, Wes, we wouldn't have been telling people not to, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of them where obviously the performance absolutely stunk. Like it fully stunk the place out on Wednesday. And I think the annoying thing I think from a Spurs fan's perspective is that we've seen that type of performance numerous times, like time and time again, where we rotate the team and we give squad players an opportunity to play and they just don't take their opportunity. You could even go back to, that famous live stream that we did, Luke, with the Zagreb game, which lasted about, a week. Things like that. And it's just like, okay, yeah, we've been through this before. And but the narrative that I can't get my head around is like, oh, Ange Postecoglou made 8 changes and it was all down to that. Well, Coventry made 7 changes that night in the same game, and yet they still managed to put up more of a performance than what we did. But I think big credit has to go to Dejan Kulusevski. I think he was absolutely brilliant when he came on, and I think he's been brilliant so far this season as well. Completely changed the game. He almost grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and went, right, come on then. Like, I want to be the person to make the difference. And I think he did that. And like you say, I think without that, we would have been staring into another bit of negativity and obviously going out of the Carabao Cup earlier than what we were anticipating.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And it could have been a disaster for the manager, to be honest. For how that week the fan base were kind of on his back, especially after the Arsenal game. They were already upset from the year before's Carabao Cup, where we went out early to Fulham. And then, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Ben Davies, we probably would have been out of the cup, because his sliding tackle after Fraser Forster decided to just absolutely somersault over the top of the defender. I think it was Dragishin. It was
Yeah.
just insane. Like absolutely. The thing was about that made no sense is he didn't try and get the ball with his arms. The ball like bounced over him and he just went flying over the top of Dragishin. He just did not look comfortable all night, did he?
No, and it was like I've been quite okay with having Fraser Forster as a backup goalkeeper. I think he's actually, when he's come in, more often than not, I think he's done all right. But there was a few sort of things that alarmed me on Wednesday night with him. It was, coming for corners and pretty much dropping them.
Yeah.
I think he did it 3 consecutive corners in a row, and I'm there like, okay, that's not good. That's not a good sign. And then obviously that one there, but if you look before then, it was one long ball. We lose the first contact, which is the header then from the Coventry player, and then they're in behind. So yeah, it was just one of those where it was just like, well, how easy is it to get in behind our back line and our defensive line? But yeah, I think Forster has either got a shout to Dragishin that he's coming to deal with it, or just let Dragishin deal with it in his own way.
Yeah.
In the end, he got caught in two minds and decided to cartwheel over him, and put our defence under some much unnecessary pressure, really. But yeah,
Well,
credit to
you have to look
Davis.
back to the first minute, mate, of the game where he plays a ball. You know how Ange likes to play.
Yeah.
The defenders split and then the ball gets played to the midfielder who then plays it back to the wide centre backs who then play it out. Like that happens quite a lot.
Mhm.
And that pass just got intercepted immediately. It was just a poor pass, and that was minute one.
Yeah, I think when you're a goalkeeper and you're trying to help the team build and play out from the back, if you're playing into midfield, where you actually pass the ball to the midfield player is really important. So he has to play safe side, and Forster just almost just plays the pass almost blind, pretty much. It's like, yeah, bang, go play, where he doesn't actually take his time to really assess the situation. Unless you've got a player, say like Thiago Alcantara, who can wriggle his way out of those types of situations. You've got to play it to the safe side of the midfield player to allow them to either turn or play, around the corner type pass. And yeah, Forster just got that sort of horribly wrong. But it was, I wouldn't say it was an uncharacteristic type performance from Fraser Forster, but there were a few things there that I've not seen him do
Yeah,
before. Other people might have seen it, but from my point of view, I've just not seen him be that shaky,
yeah.
as a goalkeeper for Spurs. So it was a little bit concerning there for me.
You did, Mr.
Hey, go on, Dad.
McGrath. Yeah, definitely. And like that, you look at Fraser Forster and you look at Vicario, and
Hmm.
in my eyes, you think Fraser Forster, stature-wise, is the type of goalkeeper I want in my goal. He's big, he's tall, but and the other thing is there's parts of his game that I would like to see from Vicario. I wrote it on Twitter actually this morning, where I said if Vicario could become better at commanding his own box and, like as you say, coming without dropping the ball, coming
Hmm.
for those corners and claiming it. The thing is, at the moment, is he relies so much on hopefully getting fouls. He's too scared, in my opinion, Vicario to come and go through somebody to get the ball. But that's what I want to see from my goalkeeper. I don't want to see him hanging about in the 6-yard box. Let's take Gabriel's header last week. Like, it's in a position whereby a keeper could come and get a punch on the ball, or at least try and put the defender off in some way. Now, look, if he comes flying out and he misses the ball and they score, you'd be slating him, right? There's parts of the game that I don't like, and that's the bit. I think he's too scared. I don't know whether to get hurt or whatever it might be, but
Yeah, I think the Gabriel one last week, and I think I mentioned it to somebody, like subsequently, like obviously after Sunday, and it was like, well, if Vicario, there's a lot of traffic between Vicario and actually the point where Gabriel makes contact to win the header to then go and score. So it's one of those where it's, look, like you say, if he comes for it, gets nowhere near it, we're saying, well, what you doing? Stay on your line. He stayed on his line, and I think his body position, like he's not set. So therefore, the only thing he could do was literally just sort of go backwards, and that's exactly what he did, as opposed to literally just kind of staying a bit more upright and having it there. And I think, if he does that, obviously Vicario will probably save it. But it's almost like he's crouched down. So naturally, if anything is above him, he is going to sort of lean
Yeah,
backwards. And I think that's, what sort of happened. But I do agree with the fact that Vicario has to be more commanding in his penalty box. Like, it's his area
yeah.
realistically, so he's got to own it. And if he doesn't own it, then we could end up being in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at it in a really, really simple manner, I know we've kind of gone off topic because we were talking Coventry, but if he comes, he needs to remember he's the one that can use his hands. No one else can,
Yeah.
right? So he has an advantage in that situation pretty much every time. And sometimes it's about, coming out to potentially get the ball that maybe puts off, a defender. Maybe the attacker, maybe the attacker doesn't go with his head because he doesn't, he's too scared of getting hit or whatever. I just think that his shot stopping ability is, well, like the one he saved yesterday
Hmm.
from point blank header, I thought was world class. I think that his shot stopping ability is brilliant, but there are parts of his game that I worry about, and so that's just something he needs to work on. But he is a young goalkeeper.
Is he though? Because he's 27, 28.
Yeah, but
So,
you would say goalkeepers go to what, mid-30s?
but I think there's some bits for me that I look at and go, well, he's not like a young, like he's not 22 or sub 22, like 23, around that age bracket. He's 27, 28. So you'd like to think that near enough all of his goalkeeping fundamentals should be nailed by now. And, things such as, being a bit more commanding in and around his box, again, I think should be there. Yeah, I know it took. I kind of liken Vicario in some respects to De Gea in terms of his frame.
Yeah,
Because De Gea was quite and is still quite a slight goalkeeper, and I think Vicario's there as well. And I know De Gea got better with age from that point of view, but there were still elements of De
yeah.
Gea's game
I
that
would
were
say
that were a
peak.
bit shaky.
Peak would be like 30. I think is a goalkeeper peak.
Yeah,
Still got
yeah.
a couple of years, and he's new. I'm going to use this as an excuse now. New to the Premier League to some degree, but as you say, there are aspects that he needs to work on. I think.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think put it this way: we've got Vicario next year, of course we have. If he's still making those same mistakes, then coming into year three in the Premier League, then I've got some serious concerns and some serious worries.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Because we'll talk about what could have happened yesterday
Mhm.
in more detail when we go on to the game. But let's talk about actually I'll read some comments out really quickly. So Jay has said off topic, new FIFA comes out this Friday. Looking forward to it. Well, Jay, we're not going to stream tonight, but potentially next Sunday, if Winnie buys the game, then we will stream the new FIFA because currently me and Kirk have pre-ordered it, so we're ready to play next Sunday. We're just waiting on Winnie to buy the game. So your guess is as good as mine whether that whether that actually happens. And he's also said his favourite current Spurs players are Son and Van der Ven. I don't think many people would disagree too much.
Yeah, can't really. I think with Van der Ven you can't really argue, but I think Son in particular is really frustrating me at the moment. Like, seriously frustrating me. I think there was even an incident in the game yesterday where he's tried to take it round Flecken, and it's like
Yeah.
slot it, and he
Yeah.
doesn't, and then it's like opportunity's gone, and it's just like I think he's overthinking things a bit too
There was
much.
a time when he also had like about probably 10 yards between him and the keeper. And, classic Son was just like leant back a little bit, curled it into the top corner, where the keeper couldn't get it. But he then decided to play it to Brennan Johnson, who then takes a
Mhm.
touch. And then, I think that's what happened. And then he then can't get the shot away. So it is frustrating. But I think that's part of the overplaying that they're being told to do. I feel
Yeah,
like it's overplaying to some degree. It's all good, these little intricate touches, but there's some point where you just have to hit the ball.
yeah,
But I've
yeah,
been watching the last few Spurs game with a non-Spurs fan, just like a neutral. It's so much so that he doesn't know any of the players' names, so he calls them by the numbers.
okay,
And I don't even remember like half the players' numbers because I just know by looking at them who they are, right? So he's like, "Oh, number 19." He did. And I'm like, "What? Who watches football with the numbers?" But apparently he does. But anyway, yeah, he was absolutely going mad at the fact that we were overplaying in attacking positions yesterday. but absolutely loves Mickey van der Ven.
I mean, who doesn't love Mickey van der Ven, to be honest?
Anyway, let's talk about half time in the cup game quickly because Ange, was not happy, obviously, and he gestured to the bench. And next thing we saw, Jed Spence coming on at left back, which we have seen in pre-season, but he's not a left back for Destiny Doggy, who's our standard left back, and we're losing the game. And this was his kind of wonder stroke, I suppose, because actually Jed comes on and scores the equaliser, and I thought he had a good half of football. Yes, people can talk about it being against a championship opposition, but I feel like I don't really understand why that change was made. I can only say potentially over tiredness from Destiny's side, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't. Well, by the looks of it, on the face of it, Ange wasn't happy with your doggy's performance, so he's gone. Now I've had enough of this. Right, Spent, Jed, get warm. You're on.
I like how you can play so badly that you bring on a right back in your position.
Yeah, I think obviously that's where, I think I said it on the show previously, like that's where for me we are just that little bit short, is that left side defender. I wouldn't say somebody like a Ben Davis, but in that mould that can cover, say, left-sided centre back and maybe left back
We still
as
have Sergio
well.
Regular.
I mean, he's on the payroll. He was on the bench, I think, on Wednesday, and I was like, wow, what's going on here? Reguilón's alive. But I don't think he's in Ange's plans whatsoever. I think he just put him on the bench to kind of fill a space because I don't think we had a left back or left sided player that we could essentially promote from the under 21s, because they had obviously a game the night before, I think, against Valencia. So yeah, Reguilón's not Ange's player at all. He's just not Ange's man. I don't think Ange is also a massive fan of Spence, contrary to what everybody thought pre-season wise. But he kind of felt like he had no choice but to bring him on because he needed to change something. It was like, right, well, your doggy's played a lot of football and is having a bit of a stinker. Let's hook him. And then we'll try and regroup from there.
Like he dislikes Spence, but not as much as he dislikes Gregory.
Yeah. It was kind of like, well, I need to change something here. So yeah, I think he's just had to kind of bite the bullet on that particular one. So yeah, because everybody's moaning that Spence isn't in the Europa League squad, and I'm thinking, well, there's a reason behind it. Like, obviously, Ange doesn't particularly want him, but he's having to kind of deal with him.
That whole thing's like mental because everyone complains about the fact we've got 3 goalkeepers or we'll have 4 goalkeepers or whatever it's meant to be. But all of this is done for specific reasons. It's not like, oh, we'll just stick more goalkeepers in to just for a bit of fucking shits and giggles. Do you know what I mean? There's reasons for all of these things, and there's so many rules, and especially Football Manager players will know, trying to hit all those, rules and whatnot. And sometimes players have to miss out, and it's not just like, oh, Jed misses out probably because Ange doesn't like him, but also for the fact someone has to miss out because of rules and regulations and everything else. So, look, it is the way it is. You can change it, right, when you get to the knockouts.
Yes, yeah.
So, maybe Jed will have his appearance, but bringing on Jed Spence for me, okay, he did great in that game. It's not one of those ones that fills with massive confidence. Oh yeah, he's an impact player that can come on. So kind of it is what it is to some degree, I suppose. But anyway, let's move on to yesterday's game. Oh wait, actually no. Let's talk about the main man, Brennan Johnson, because obviously he had, annoyingly for you, Wes, Odegaard went off with what seems to be a reasonably serious injury. It looks like he'll be out for a bit of time, and Johnson came on, and he was doing all right, but of course it was just perfect passing, perfect timing in the last minute, because obviously he scores the winner and then kind of doesn't celebrate, looks at the crowd in some way. Fair play to him, because people have been absolute arseholes to him, but he's turned up and got us through to the next round of the cup. So it's good to see that professional side, right?
Yeah, and I think he's done well to obviously silence the critics. Obviously, goal midweek, goal yesterday. Don't agree with the level or the amount and the level of abuse that he's been given online. But I also think at the same time, people, unfortunately, now everybody has like a voice, everybody has an opinion and everything else. But obviously, I think there's a lot of people that have taken it just that step too far. But there is a part of me that goes, well, Brennan Johnson has been absolutely awful. I'm still not overly convinced by him as a Tottenham player. Um, and I do think there needs to be more that comes from him. If we are wanting to push on and
Yeah,
become, say, top four regulars, pushing for, what we were doing not so long ago, there has to be more from him. And I don't know if he's got it in him to go for it and really, accelerate his not only his football career but his Tottenham career. Um, or he's either going to sink or swim, basically. Like he's either going to, ride out the wave of the criticism and just keep silencing everybody by scoring or assisting, that kind of thing. Or he's just going to go into his shell. And he does strike me as that type of person and character who is quite quiet and who is quite shy as a person. Um, so yeah, there is that thing where you look at, well, is he going to go sort of within himself, and then all of a sudden he becomes a player that we just go, right, well, he cost us 50 million. It's not working out because he hasn't got the personality,
yeah.
say, to play for Spurs, and we'll sell him for 20 million to a team lower down the Premier League, and he starts flying again. So I wouldn't say he's at a crossroads in his Tottenham career, but I definitely think there is more to come from him. But I mean, the actual finish itself was delicious, and the through ball from Bentancur
Yeah.
was simply sublime. So
The weight of
um,
passing it was just absolutely disgusting, wasn't it?
yeah, and I think for me, there's not many players in that Spurs team that I would want on the ball in that position. Because I think Bentancur is right up there with one of our better players. I think he's
I think
massively underrated.
he looks like he's got his swagger back as well.
Yeah, just before he gets a 12-match ban, which is quite coincidental. He just hits form, and then all of a sudden he's going to get hit with a massive ban by the FA. So yeah, it'll be a bit of a shame if we are to lose him for a period of time. Because like you've said there, he's just coming back to that
Yeah.
pre sort of
But,
injury Bentancur.
play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you're going to be an arsehole, then that's
That
what
is
happens.
true. That is true.
I don't condone. So there's no,
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about Brennan Johnson yesterday, I felt like he was pretty wasteful as well. Like he had 2 shots on target, 2 shots off target. He scored 1 goal, got 0 assists. He got 0.49 expected goals. So even though he scored, they didn't expect him to score. And then expected assist was 0.06.
Brilliant.
And bear in
Brilliant.
mind, he was in some really good positions. Missed 1 big chance. I'm just reading off stats here. But I mean,
Yes.
all those together suggests that, when you read the fact he had 6 shots, 2 of them on target, but yet his XG was like less than half a goal, says a
Yeah.
lot. That the issue with him is that I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a bit like when I play football. So
Christ.
no, so I'm not saying ability wise, but I'm saying when I get in front of goal, or when a big moment happens, my mind just freezes, and then by the time it's caught up with itself, the moment's gone, and that's what I feel like what happens with Brennan Johnson. He gets into that position, and either the first touch kind of lets him down or goes slightly away from goal. There was one the other day, yesterday, where the ball kind of takes him too far away from goal, but then he gets a shot on target anyway, and it's
Mhm.
that moment, that's probably when you do need to make the pass. But again, there was a lot more overplaying, at least with the goal he scored against Coventry and the goal he scored yesterday. They were both
Mhm.
kind of instinctive finishes, touch and then striking to the far corner, rather than when he kind of overthinks it. That's the issue with him, I think, is he kind of overthinks too much, and that's when it kind of doesn't go too well. I always think, and I always use this analogy, and I always will, is do you see this player playing in the squad that wins the Premier League?
No.
No.
No chance. No.
So therefore, we need to upgrade that position. Do you know what I mean? Do I see Song Hyun Min in that team? Yes, probably. because of the caliber of player he is. Do I see Mickey van der Ven in there? Yes. Like, and then that's when we start weeding out players from there and saying, like, okay, as you say, do you sell him for a loss, or do you just upgrade on that and hope that he then kind of steps up his game to try and match that? Because I think if he could work on his finishing, when he comes inside and he's coming into the box like that, I think he could be a good player. But as you say, it's a little bit like when we talk about Vicario. Like, is it at the point now where like it's not too late, but like it's going to take a lot of work to try and change that about him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think Johnson's almost one of them where if he has time to think, he's absolutely like atrocious.
Yeah, shits his pants.
Yeah, like when he has to do things where he doesn't have to think, I think that's where we kind of see the best of him. Like the balls, for example, when he's out wide and he's putting them into the box, if it's a through ball and he just plays it across, usually it's with decent quality. But it almost feels like when he's out wide and he's got to try and beat somebody and then put a cross in, he hasn't got a clue. And it almost feels like at times he's a shadow of the player that was at Nottingham Forest and that was producing, some good moments, and was really key to Forest actually staying in the Premier League. And you're looking at him at that point and going, do you know what? I wouldn't mind him at Spurs.
Yeah.
But I think now it's like, I think we've kind of given near enough a majority of the players, I think, a free pass last season that was signed, and it's like now we're looking at them to step up and try and produce more this season, and it just feels like Brennan Johnson's not quite there just yet. And like you say, do I see Johnson in a side that is going to be challenging for the league? Do I see Johnson playing in a Champions League final? Because obviously we were there not that long ago. Do I see him in semi-finals and finals of big games? Not really. And I think that at the moment, I think with this side is where the potential issue is. So that's where I think. But I think that with the majority of the squad at Spurs, like there's a few there that you look at and go, are they going to take us to that next level? Probably not. So it's almost like, well, what are they doing here? Are they stopgaps until we find that next, booming player for their position, and then we'll go there. I'm hoping you've finished now with the score predictions because you've been playing around with them.
No, do you know what? I had to get them uploaded onto this new system because they hadn't been uploaded yet because we changed really recently. And for some reason, when you upload them on, they like automatically just go onto the screen. So
I'll let you off.
Yeah, as you say, it's one of those players where like he definitely requires some form of competition, and with Odebear being out, it's not looking like there'll be much competition. Obviously, Decky can play on that side, but he's been playing a lot better through the middle. And I feel like as well with Ange's season is kind of, we always talk about, and we're going off topic as we always do, but well, off topic compared to my notes anyway. But and everyone talks about can Ange adapt and can he change, and a lot of people say like no, probably can't. But it's actually quite interesting because he has this season adapted in the sense of where he'd usually play kind of more like one deep line player, one that can kind of come forward and mix in both areas, and then one attacking. He's gone a lot more attacking against Arsenal. He went really attacking in that game. Yesterday again, he plays Decky and Maddison. What that allows, I think, is Maddison to then just roam and be free. So he's not kind of bound by any positions. And I feel like you get a bit more out of Maddison in the sense of if he goes missing because he's roaming too much and you only have him behind the strikers, then you lose that player in there. Rather than with Decky then being there kind of like the whole time, it allows a lot more for Maddison to roam around. And then I feel like Decky's touch has been absolutely class. Like the only thing I think he really needs to work on is his finishing.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I think he's been brilliant this season, and that role is what he likes. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't keep at that formation in that way.
Yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, I think Kulusevski's probably been our player of the season so far. I know we're only a few games in, but he's just hit a different level, I think, compared to normal. I think, like you mentioned, he's enjoying that freedom almost of being in the middle. Um, I think he's probably one of our best players in terms of receiving the ball in tight areas and turning away
Yeah.
from players. And I
His close
think,
control is unreal as well, isn't it?
yeah, I think we did see that in one of the times, I think in the Coventry game where the ball's played into him, he sort of spun and then was trying to work an angle for a cross or a shot. But yeah, I think with his finishing, it feels like he drags his shots a lot. Like he doesn't get clean contacts on the
Yeah,
ball. He often drags it. So yeah, I'd love to see Decky like chip in with a few more goals. I think if he adds that into his game, then he'd be an unbelievably huge asset for Tottenham. If he isn't already, because I think he's a key component in terms of what we want to do. But I think if he added goals into his game as well as the other outputs that he produces, I think he would almost become kind of indispensable. And it's like we have to get him in the team.
yeah, yeah. I really like that midfield at the moment as well, which is we're stacked in midfield, but I do really like that three of Madison, Decky, and Bentancur, which is going to be difficult because I do like Basuma's work rate, and I feel like in the limited time we've seen him this season, I feel like we have seen a better side of Basuma.
Hmm.
But, it's how you fit those players into your midfield, especially when you play with a three to go with two attacking. You're missing out Sarr, Basuma, and then obviously you've got Bentancur.
Yeah, and it's a good headache to have. Obviously, throw into the mix then Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall as well. So we've got some really, really good options. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be Ange in that situation trying to pick a midfield three for kind of any game really. Never mind, a game against another one of the so-called big six, or even as we look ahead to Thursday against Carabao. To be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to talk really quickly about two last things in yesterday's game. First of all, was obviously not great, but we conceded after 30 seconds. What a finish by the main man, my mate, Brian Buemo, who I
Yeah.
still thought that Spurs should have signed, but
Yeah.
never mind. We'll move on from that one day. But I don't really see we did lose the ball quite early, but I mean, apart from that, it was a great finish. Potentially the ball should have been cleared, but I mean, 30 seconds in, unless you're like kicking the ball into your own net or you make a really difficult, really poor back pass, or do you know what I mean? Something like it's kind of like one of those things that happens. But what did you make of that? Did you think that we were at fault too much for that goal?
Um, I think it's one of the timing of the goal, like you say, is a bit of a shock to the system because it is
Yeah,
so early. Um, but two things kind of stood out for me was that the cross should have been defended better by probably Porro. In that situation, has to do better to stop the cross. And Van de Ven, I think Mbuemo's movement just to get off Van de Ven was really good, but at the same time, like defensively, Van de Ven's got to get a bit tighter. And if he's not going to get tight, he has to get his body in the line of the ball. So then Mbuemo has to effectively take a touch. And then if he does take a touch, then Mbuemo, then that's when Van de Ven can engage and try and, block or intercept the ball. So yeah, I just think Van de Ven just got to be a little bit tighter there for me. Take nothing away from the finish. It's a cracking finish into
yeah,
the top corner. But yeah, if he's not getting tight, he's just got to get his body in between and take one, whether that's to the chest, the stomach, the face, his nuts, whatever really.
yeah.
So
He could have attacked the ball with his head as well, I suppose. Because it's coming
yeah,
coming out towards the edge of the box, isn't it? Away from him, but or again, it could be a bit. I discussed about a keeper coming in to try and at least claim the ball. It might put the striker off. I feel like the same thing with the defender if he moves.
yeah, because how many times do you see that actually there's no real intent from a defender to go and win the ball, but they kind of just do enough just to almost
Yeah,
put the attacker off. So
yeah. Does he
yeah,
then have the composure to volley that in the top corner? I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Mbuemo is a very very decent player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's got unless he's going to do a bicey. I don't know if he's got one of them in the locker. To be fair, but yeah, I don't know if he's got that capability to kind of control. It's like secure the ball into his body frame and then
Yeah,
maybe lay it off. I don't think he's one of those types of forward players. In the same way that if, for example, it landed at Ivan Toney, I think one of Tony's strengths. I'm not his massive fan, but one of his strengths is actually just getting his body in between defender and the ball,
yeah,
and then bringing others into play.
yeah, definitely. But look, I was quite impressed with how we dealt with it. I was quite impressed with how we moved on from that, and I was quite impressed with also the football that we played against a side who I thought, with their pressing, could cause us some problems. I thought we dealt with it pretty easily, and we did see finally some goals, but I felt like we could have scored a hatful. Just a shame that we really could do with like a game where that happens, where we score 4 or 5.
Yeah, we need to kind of play Everton again, to be honest, because they're gifting goals left, right, and centre at the minute. But yeah, I think the reaction to going 1-0 down was really good. We kind of then went full like at Brentford. I think the thing is, obviously, the Brentford team decimated by injury. I think they had 9 out yesterday, and I think the two other midfield players who they usually play in Jensen and Norgard are really key in terms of how Brentford get after opposition. So you spoke there about how they press. I think those two in particular do a very good job alongside Janelt in making life really difficult in that midfield three for opposition teams. But yeah, no, it was just nice, I think, for us to get a fairly sort of convincing win. So yeah, we'll take it. And I think the pleasing thing is, and I said this to you before we went live, was that players that you kind of felt needed a goal got a goal as well. Like Dom Solanke well, I say needed a goal.
Definitely needs a goal, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think he desperately needed one because it was only what is like third game realistically for Spurs. Like as Ange said, like chill out and do some yoga, mate. But yeah, it was just nice that he's now up and running. I
Yeah,
think Johnson, again, to silence some critics. Maddison, I think he needed a goal just to boost his confidence. But I think, yeah, it was just nice to see those three chipping in the goals department.
yeah. I think from my perspective, the way I feel about that is mainly because of the fact that it's just getting your first goal. For
Mm,
me, that's key. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to score every game. I mean, I'd like it, but it's doubtful that will happen. But I mean, it's how quickly he can get that first goal, so that it's kind of up and running. He can get that off his back and off his mind. A
hmm
bit like with Madison as well. I felt like his reaction to when he scored, the way he went over to the crowd, the way he was kind of, you know,
Yeah.
doing all that business. I
Took his
like.
shirt off and his mum was fuming because he's in her fantasy team and it cost her a point.
Was that what it was?
Yeah. So yeah, I think he said after the game
Why'd
on
you
the
get
Spurs
yeah,
channel.
why'd you get a yellow card for taking your shirt off when you've got an undershirt on?
Yeah, don't get me. But yeah, he said about it. And yeah, apparently his mum texted him saying, "What? Keep your shirt on. You're in my fantasy team. You just cost me a point there." So yeah, she was a little bit fuming. I think Madison's mum.
Yeah, I can't believe, like, because surely the point is, right, something to do with having your nipples out or something, right? That's why you get a yellow card. But now if you just take your shirt off and you've got a long sleeve top on, it's
Yeah,
outrageous. I can't believe people would do that.
game's gone. Is all I need to say on that one. Game's
Yeah.
gone.
And then I do want to touch on if Ross is still in the chat. He said, talking of keepers, do you think Vicari should have been sent off? Now, I thought at the time that it was 100% sending off. I thought that's it, he's gone. But then I was reading on Twitter, and by the way, Twitter is an absolute cesspool before we get into that part. But I was reading on Twitter, and because I've muted a lot of like these like idiots now, so now I kind of just get like fun, good times Spurs fans on there. So if I do follow you, you might be muted if you're an asshole. But anyway, I was hearing people chat earlier, and they were saying it would only have been a yellow anyway. But then, like, I always assumed if the keeper handles it outside the box, it's always a red card.
Yeah, I was of that opinion as well. But then I don't know if I watched the highlights again on Match of the Day this morning. I think they also said that um, because it wasn't the denial of a goal scoring opportunity,
Right.
that's why he got booked as opposed to being sent off. I personally think he's lucky to stay on the pitch, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think because I'm of the he's handled it outside the box. Like he's got to go. He's got to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally think Vicario's got away with one there.
And I mean, the way he flaps at it to push it away from the player, like surely that is denying.
Yeah, he's guilty as sin, like you said there. He's flapped at it. He's literally gone like that and
Yeah.
pushed it away from the attacking player who, body shape wise, is set to absolutely smash the life out of the football and probably get what it's either one that's going on target towards the top corner or it's going into row Z in the north stand. That's literally how it was going to play out. There was going to be no in between. But yeah, I think Vicario can count himself very, very fortunate and very lucky to have still been on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, we're all under the same agreement that we got away with one in that one. But what's ridiculous, right, is if we look in the space of 1 week. Oh, first of all, I was getting annoyed because I thought that's him gone. And then the only player we've got is Fraser Forster, and he had an absolute shocker the other day. But in the Carabao Cup game, he comes flying out head first over the Dragoshin. And then in literally the next game, Vicario comes absolutely flying to the edge of his box, and you think he's just going to head it. But no, he decides he's going to try and do whatever he does. Then he has to get another hand on it, which is probably just inside the box. And then he's like, oh, I haven't done enough still because my body's still going forwards. I'm just going to tickle it with the fingertips.
Yeah, no, it was. It's not great. Not great from the goal. It's like, at what point do we trust Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman? To be fair, so yeah, like I say, it's not been a great week for Spurs goalkeepers. Obviously, the thing with Vicario last Sunday, Fraser Forster on Wednesday, Vicario again yesterday. Yeah, it's not been the best time to be a Spurs goalkeeper. Bring back, Neil Sullivan, Casey Keller, Ian Walker is what I say.
Oh, talking about Neil Sullivan, actually, I was I was playing LMA Manager 2002 the other day, just for like a bit of banter, and I completely forgot he even existed, to be honest. So I was looking through the squad, and I was like, "Oh, who can I play in this team, and who's decent, and who's up and coming?" And it was just, I was absolutely loving life, to be honest. Trying to sign David Beckham. For Spurs. Just thinking who's like absolute class that's still young that I can just sign for pennies, but then I had to stop playing. Anyway, Paul has said, be nice to rest Son on Thursday and start Mikey Moore. We will get on to Carabao in a minute, but we want to talk about score predictions. First, we won't give next weekend score predictions just yet, so you can keep them to yourselves. We also don't do cup games because we decided against it. The majority ruled, but we did do our score predictions for yesterday's game, and they were as follows. I went for 2-1 Spurs. Winnie went 5-0 Spurs thanks to the wheel. Dave went 2-0 Spurs. Callum went 3-2 Spurs, and Wes, you also went 2-1 Spurs. So me and you just missed out thanks to that latest James Maddison goal.
Yeah, if I'd have known that, I'd have absolutely gone mental at him. I'd have told him to sky it. But I thought I went 3-1. That's why I wasn't too bad.
Oh, no. So we all did get 1 point. So that means that Winnie's got 5, Wes got 4, I've got 2, Dave's got 2, and Callum's got 2. So only the 2 of you have got correct scores so far. But what's funny is, everyone, is that Winnie, Callum, and Dave all have not given their scores in.
Oh, the wheel! It's time for the wheel.
Yeah, so the triple wheel. We won't do it just yet. We'll do it right at the end because you need to keep you all waiting. But there'll be 3 wheel spins for the score predictions for the other lads. So we need to be good with our scores today because we could end up cleaning up, I think. But let's quickly talk about Carabao on Thursday night. Our return to Europe is here. Actually, that stream you talked about earlier, that Dino Zagreb, doesn't exist anymore because I had a little cleanup of our
that was the
videos,
best. That was the best 3 hours of my life.
But yeah, we are back in the Europa League, and this new format is looking interesting. Actually, obviously, watching the Champions League last week, because if we'd gone back to the old format and we got Carabao, we'd have to go over to Azerbaijan, which is an absolute nightmare 7-hour flight plus to get to. Instead, they've got to come to us. We've got another home game and hopefully should be a nice, easy win. They say, but then you remember that you support Tottenham Hotspur, and so it could be a difficult night. What do you think about this? Because Ange surely has to be questioning, like, am I going to fully rotate this squad like I did against Coventry, or do I have to have, what do you think he does?
Put it this way, like for me, there was nothing wrong with the team that Ange put out against Coventry. Like there was enough on that football pitch to
Yeah,
get the job done against Coventry. No disrespect to Coventry, it's a football club that I have spent some time working for, and they were absolutely fantastic to me, um, and everything else. And obviously, yes, they put United under, a lot of pressure in the cup semi-final last year. Had a great cup run last year, but it should have been a lot more comfortable than what we made it. And that's when I come back to what I mentioned earlier about the fact that that type of performance is one we've seen time and time again with Spurs. Like, you even look back at the last sort of time we were in the Europa League against Plovdiv and we're struggling, um, to break them down. And it's like, yeah, we got Bale, Kane, Son, Delhi,
yeah.
like all on the pitch, and we still can't break them down. Like, what's going on here? Um, so it wouldn't shock me if Ange puts out a similar side to the one he did against Coventry. I think again there should be enough on that in that team to get the job done against Carabao. So yeah, I would, if it was me, I would definitely rotate, give some players some game time. We've got a lot of games coming up. We've got a big one next Sunday as well, away to United. So yeah, I think that is definitely one that we should be looking to, give, like I say, give some minutes to some players that potentially need it. Archie Gray, I anticipate will start Bergville. Mikey Moore's an interesting one. I think every Spurs fan wants to see what he can do. Who knows? Now with the injury to Odobert, it might be an opportunity for him to try and, get some minutes. So yeah, I think the player that's really frustrating us as fans at the moment is Timo Werner, because it's just like, well, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to sort of achieve here? Like,
It's
are
like head's
you?
gone, isn't it? That's how I feel. Like head's just completely gone. Like,
Yeah, I think it was one of them where we initially signed him on loan. I think a lot of people were like, oh, right, okay, he might be able to do something, and then it's like, oh shit, we've got him back. Oh, he wasn't that good.
yeah,
Yeah, I think he's just been really, really wasteful, Werner. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, you have this reputation. Yeah, I think the reputation's going before him a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to kind of see, a couple of the kids, if you like. But yeah, like I say, I fully expect Ange to put out a similar side to the one against Coventry. To be fair.
yeah. Hopefully, we we can just get a couple of goals, see the game out, and move on to the next game. But you are right. Like we do need to make some changes. It's just whether we go like wholesale changes or not. Like it's likely that Fraser Forster will be the goalkeeper. Cup goalkeeper by the looks of it. Um,
We've got four to choose from.
don't start people off again. I mean, like I love Archie Gray. I was so happy when we signed him, and I get why right back will work for him in terms of offensively. It's just defensively, I felt like he struggled against Coventry. I think it's just his stature. I feel like he can get pushed off the ball quite a lot, but then I expect him to still play in that position. I expect Lucas Bergvall to play. I would expect Big Dom will get a lot of games because we don't have anybody else.
Yeah, Richarlison's not fit. Lancashire's back in training, so then I don't know if there's going to be a possibility that he would be available for selection at least on Thursday. But yeah, I think if he is, maybe why not just give him, half an hour, see what he can do.
Yeah, and that's a benefit, I suppose, of a league format as well. Is you don't have to be like unbelievable in all of your games, to get to a point where you can still progress. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It can be a little bit more forgiving, I think, because we
Yeah,
do have a lot of tricky kind of away assignments. I think our home games are fairly favourable, barring Roma. I think that's probably the glamour home tie and home fixture for us. So yeah, I think this is definitely the game where I would rotate. There are other fixtures where I wouldn't rotate as much, but this one I would pick rotated squad on Football Manager, Luke. That's what I'm saying. Hello to
There we go.
Rosie. Hello to Rosie as well.
Amazing. There's so much. It's like the Wes fan base, isn't it? Tonight, like
Well, that's what
everyone.
happens. This is what happens when you send me a link. I share it about to people. Get the views
Amazing.
up.
Absolutely love that. Right, Johnny has said, "Who are you playing next? Let's get to predictions." Right, here's your like 2 or 3 minute warning to get your predictions for Manchester United away, which is next Saturday evening, I believe.
Sunday. It's next Sunday,
Sunday.
4:30.
Sunday. There we go. Oh yeah, I just looked at it on my phone. I don't know why I decided to say the word Saturday. So that should be just before the stream. So yeah, got a couple of minutes. Get your score predictions in. Should again, like this is just our life, isn't it? Like should be a game where you would say the form in which Manchester United are currently in. I watched them last night. Didn't think they were that impressive at all. Felt like they lacked goal threat. Lissandro Martinez, I've no idea how he doesn't get sent off for absolutely just chopping near. Well, obviously that's why he doesn't get sent off because he actually just chops the ball nearly in half. But I feel like it's a game where again we should be able to win. It's a game where we should take advantage, and we need to start taking advantage of these positions. But Manchester United, especially away, it's always been extremely tricky for us. I remember Cristiano Ronaldo just scores a hat trick out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just like a classic thing that we somehow do, and that's where we've got to be a bit careful, isn't it? Whereas we can't take this game for granted.
No, definitely. And I think, as you mentioned there, Old Trafford's notoriously been a very, very tricky assignment. I was at the game that you mentioned as well, the Ronaldo hat trick. And I think at that point, as a Spurs, I think we were still relatively early in Conte's tenure.
Yeah,
And I actually thought the way we played, I actually came out of Old Trafford that evening going, do you know what? I'm actually really proud that it felt like we went toe to toe with a sort of big six rival, gave them a really good game. Like we sort of turned up in that game. It was just a little bit unfortunate, I think, for us in terms of how the result ended. But again, Eric Dyer just wants to give Ronaldo some space. So less said about Eric Dyer, the better, I think. But yeah, Old Trafford always been difficult. I think I was at the game the last time we won with fans, obviously because I think the last time we won, Mourinho was in charge, and we decided to near enough end Patrice Evra's time on Sky Sports. But I think before that was the 3-0 with the Lucas Moura double and the Harry
yeah,
Kane header. Nearly ended up about 3 rows in front, which was quite fun. When Lucas Moura put the third one in. So yeah, Old Trafford not been easy for us. But yeah, I'd be really interested to see how we set up and how this game goes, because United have this tendency to either be ridiculously all over the place, or actually they can be a little bit half decent. Like I think last night was a little bit of a mix of the both, which is rare for them. But they're either bang on it and Ten Hag sort of gets into them and then they get up with, and then the crowd gets up, or they are just absolutely woeful. I think like we saw earlier on in the season against Liverpool, where they did not know what day of the week it was. But
yeah,
having said that, obviously Liverpool have got those killers and those clinical players in that final part of the pitch. You talk about Salah, Jota, they're clinical finishers when they get the opportunity to. So I think if we are going to go at United, we have to seriously take our chances. We cannot afford to be wasteful, because if we are, then it will come and bite us on the backside, like massively.
yeah, 100%. There were times in yesterday's game where I was saying to my mate, that we're gonna like concede here, like it's gonna come back to bite us in the ass, and that's the problem luckily when you play a team against like Brentford, no offense to them, you can see a game out and then score an extra goal to really see it off. But when you play at Old Trafford against United, regardless of how they're playing, you know, you really should see it off. Otherwise, you will be made to pay, and that's what's going to be interesting is, do we have it in the locker to be able to really take this to them? Because if we do, and we do, kind of play out of our skins, we could really really take it to them, and could end up ending Ten Hag's career. But no, I just think they are vulnerable, and I think they can really be got at. That's like my honest opinion, and I think if we play to our full ability, I don't see us not winning. But it's always that part of being a Spurs fan, and I always used to attribute that to why Spurs players were not so good in those situations either, because they also understood that same feeling. Do you know what I mean? But then our team's changed so much since then. Somehow it's still ingrained.
Yeah.
Which is why I personally believe that fans do have a part in the results to some degree. Not just those who are at the ground, what people say on social media and so on. I do think that people do see it. Let's take Brennan Johnson as a prime example.
Yeah.
And so, well, some people won't care, right? Because they are anonymous assholes, and that's okay. Because, Twitter, the cesspool it is, allows people to be that, If they didn't allow it, it wouldn't happen. But, anyway, there's something just happened which is taking me completely off my train of thought. But, yeah, so what we say does have an impact on them. So I feel like if we all changed as a football club and as a fan base, that may have some difference in how we play. And if it doesn't really matter, right? Because we'd all be nicer people because of it. So
That is true. That is true.
But anyway, Dave has got in the chat with his score prediction, and he said in before the end. Now, as far as I remember, give me 1 second to just plug in my laptop so it doesn't run out of battery before the end. Absolute cliffhanger. But I believe that I said the scores needed to be in before the start of the show. I could either be an arsehole or I could be a nice person. Depends on what you want me to be. I'll let the chat decide. So Dave, you can either decide to allow him to have his score prediction in, or make us spin the wheel. If anybody doesn't care, don't say anything. So more than likely, I will say anything. But yeah, let's discuss our score predictions whilst we're waiting. So everybody else as well, there's at least 8 of you in the chat. So get all of your score predictions in. I only see a couple in the chat. But Wes, I'll let you go first. Your mum has spoken.
Oh no, that's not me. That's not me. Just throwing it out there. Sorry, Dave, but it's nothing to do with me, that one.
Yeah, so I'll let you go with your score prediction first. I already have mine written down.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a repeat of last year's score, which was 2-2.
Desmond.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go with the Desmond.
2-2 draw for Wes. Dave said, FYI, the new system we use won't work on his phone, so he shouldn't be punished for the fact that he can't log on.
Oh.
You know what?
Oh.
I'll be a nice person because nice people get nice things. That's what I believe in. So, Dave, I will allow your score prediction. So, Dave has, but from now on, saying it out there, it's scored before the show or the wheel spin. Dave has gone for a 2-0 Spurs win. So let me write that down. I am going to go for a 3-1 Spurs win. So Dave's gone 2-0. I've gone 3-1. You've gone 2-2. Let's see what some of the chat are saying. Sorry, 2 secs. I can't talk and type at the same time.
I've seen a 4-2 Spurs from Ronnie.
Oh.
In the chat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 4-2 Spurs. Nice to see. I can see that Johnny has gone for a 2-2 draw. And that's mental because you've also gone for a 2-2 draw and he supports Arsenal and you support Spurs. So
yeah. I don't know if that's a bad thing on my part or Johnny's part, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair actually. Your mum has gone 2-1 Spurs.
Right.
Jay knows what he's talking about. 3-1 Spurs. So yeah, let us know what you think your scores will be. But what I'm going to introduce is my good friend, the Wheel. So we
We
can
love
now,
the wheel.
yeah. So we're now going to go for Winnie's score, and the Wheel will predict or tell him what his score will be.
Give me a 4-4. Give me a 4-4. Go for it.
5-1 Spurs.
Wow. Okay.
He had 5-0 last week, and he's got 5-1 this week.
Blimey.
Wow. 1-5 Spurs. Right. Callum. Here we go. What will the Wheel predict for him? Oh, just rolled past 5-5.
No.
Oh, he's got Desmond as well.
That is so kind. That is so kind on Callum, honestly.
Wasn't far off 5-5, was it?
No, that's what
either
the
way,
people wanted.
I'm not sure why it's got 5-5 twice, but I'm not going to complain.
Well, we've got it down twice, and it still didn't land on it, so it's not a bad thing.
No, fair enough. Right, so that was 2-2 draw for Callum. So just to go over those scores, we've got me with a 3-1 Spurs win, Winnie with a 5-1 Spurs win, Dave with a 2-0 Spurs win, Callum and Wes both with a 2-2 draw.
Which is quite interesting because Callum has just put in our infamous group chat 2-2 as well.
No way.
He actually has. If you check the group chat, you'll
Oh,
see Callum's
madness.
message to say 2-2. That is like fate.
Yeah. Fate that it probably won't be 2-2.
Yeah, cheers.
Johnny said, the thing is that both of you and United suck. So 2-2 sounds about right.
Oh, shame about the Arsenal, isn't it, Johnny?
Right. I love this. Dave said, I didn't even know who we were playing, but I backed my team. I like this new you, Dave, anyway.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah, what's happened to the actual Dave? I want him back. Just for balance.
Exactly. But look, that kind of does wrap us up. We'll be back next week to discuss another 2 games, the Carabao game and the United game. But where Dave should also be back on Wednesday, fingers crossed, to announce the winner of week 5, which was Money Week in the FPL, the Fat Pod lads. So make sure you check them out Wednesday night, 9 o'clock as well on this channel. But Wesley, thank you very much again for coming on. I didn't call you Winnie this week, which is always handy. And
Yes.
How can everyone find you?
Twitter's at Wezo10, unofficial Moose Dembele fan account, as everybody knows by now, usually tweeting most things about the best Belgian to ever play in the Premier League. Instagram's at Wezo32. Wasn't at the game yesterday, but I am due to be at the game on Thursday. And unfortunately for me, not at the game on Sunday. Could not get a ticket, I'm afraid. So yeah, we'll be watching that one from the comfort of my my sofa. And then I run my own football coaching business in the Milton Keynes area, Dele Alli and Leah Williamson Country. For people that don't know where it is, but know probably of those two. So it's Kofa MK or Kickoff Football Academy across socials for that. And then at WM32 Football for some random football content when I can be bothered to sort that out. Luke, that is a wrap. Bang.
Woo. Amazing. Yeah, make sure you go and check out all Wes' social media, and especially if you live in the Milton Keynes area, make sure your kids are being coached by him or will knock on your house and tell you off. But yeah, if you want to follow me, it's Luke_Park Lane. But more importantly, make sure that you are liking the videos. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, following us on all social medias at Park Lane Pod. And, if you're listening on any podcast platform, keep listening and keep listening all the way through. I'm going to try and end the stream now, but who knows what will happen. But if I do disappear, it's been great seeing you all. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
On,